Yeah, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Jim here. Ted is not here.
Here.
There. Oh, okay, on. Hi, Ted.
How's it going, John? Greetings from lovely Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Thank you. Cecil. You're muted.
I'm here. Thank you.
Tom is late.
He's on his way. Yes.
Okay. Stacy,
Here.
Blake here, and I'm here. Everybody's here. Minutes. There's some corrections that need to be made for the minutes from October. Or, no, I'm sorry, December meeting.
Okay.
I was absent and I spoke to Diana and they'll be corrected
All right.
before they're signed. November 8th minutes. Do you have any changes, comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the meeting or the minutes for the meeting of November 8th. And we're gonna do December the 8th at the same time.
We can note that the changes that need to be made
Okay,
are because I was absent. Stacy was acting chair.
she was running the show that night
That's right.
on December the 8th. I think somebody seconded me.
Did you second Todd, Ted?
That was me.
Okay. Blake,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Cecil.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 6-0. No. Lost track of where I was from the. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. PSP 004-22 site plan for new parking lot. Do you want me to read through that or just?
You can go ahead and
Okay.
do that.
New parking lot at Falcon Lakes Golf Club driving range. A public hearing is required.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. can you hear me okay? I talk very loud. Can everyone on Zoom hear me? Okay, I don't want to blow out any eardrums. Good evening. This afternoon, the applicant requested that we table this item to the March 14th meeting. There was a miscommunication between he and his client. And so they have requested that this item not be heard this evening. Staff told them that we would bring this forward to you, but we supported that request. So when you make a motion, you need to make sure that you make a motion to continue this to the date specific, the March 14th meeting, because the public hearing portion of it is being carried over to the March 14th meeting.
Well, then can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I move that we table this until the March 14th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
I second. All in favor, Cecil,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Stacy?
Yes.
Blake? Yes. Yes, motion passes 6-0.
You know,
Item 5. PRZ 004-22, rezone from R3 to CP2, a 9.50 acre lot located at the end of Briar Road. A public hearing is required.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, we have a request from Mr. John Chambers. He's requesting to rezone this piece of property that is located near 155th State. It's like you said, it's at the end of Briar Road. He is requesting to rezone that from R3, which is a multifamily zoning district, to the CP2 zoning district, which would allow for more intense business uses. The request is being brought, like I said, because he does have plans to operate a building, the polished concrete building. He plans to build a 20,000 square foot commercial structure that is not currently allowed in that zoning district, which is why the request is coming. A little bit of background on this. This will play in your future land use map that you all have received. The request does not match the current adopted future land use map. That is because, unfortunately, when the map was officially adopted by the Planning Commission and the City Council, the incorrect map was put in by mistake. And therefore, this piece of land here, if you look on the second page of your report, the subject property, you can see that it's a light orange instead of the red. It is supposed to be red. Staff is working on amending that, and I will bring that to you in March. So it's important to note that this request, this request did meet the intended future land use map that you all intended to adopt. So just keep that in mind. It's a little bit wonky as I go through, but the request does meet the intent of this zoning district, okay? So the surrounding zoning, as you can see in your map that you have been provided, and Diana, if you can pull up the county map there, just so we kind of know exactly where we're talking about. You have commercial, you have CP1 across State Avenue. They're directly east and directly south is unincorporated Leavenworth County territory. That's all rural residential type zoning. And then directly to the west, you have CP2, which is general business, which is what they are requesting. Within this corridor here, we have veterinarian office, we have a Simple Simons, we have, I think we have PCDI Homes is located within there. We have several higher intensity zoning or higher intensity uses there. This request does really match the types of uses that are already found in that zoning district. So staff is supportive of this request for a number of reasons, but I will go through the golden factors now. The golden factors were what you all are required to consider whenever you are making a recommendation on a rezoning. So character of the immediate area, again, the immediate area consists of various commercial uses ranging anything from a restaurant to a veterinarian office, building developer. There's also mini storage in the immediate area. Mini storage that's a fairly intense use. So this would again be in line with that. The zoning and uses of the nearby property, again, this is located right there at 2440. We have several commercial uses, commercial zoning there already existing. We do have some residential. There's the planned unit residential to the south and to the west, and then you have the unincorporated zoning district there also. However, the county future land use map also calls for that area to ultimately be commercial and mixed use. So that also matches. Suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it's been restricted. Currently, it's vacant. It's zoned for multifamily residential. The property could theoretically be developed at multifamily residential. However, that would not really be in line with some of the other uses we see right there. The extent to which removal of the present zoning will detrimentally affect nearby properties. Granting the rezoning request is really unlikely to detrimentally affect nearby properties. The properties immediately adjacent to the subject parcel are already zoned CP2 and are already being used in those types of uses. Granting the rezoning request would bring the subject parcel into character with the like zoned parcels that are near it. The length of time the property has remained vacant, it has never been developed to staff's knowledge. Relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare. Granting the rezoning request would allow for a 20,000 square foot commercial building to be constructed on the property. This building would of course be taxed at a commercial rate, and of course any sales that were to take place there would also be sales tax, which is obviously for the betterment of the community. Those sales tax dollars would go back to supporting Basehor as a whole, improving infrastructure throughout the community. Adjoining owners are unlikely to be negatively impacted as the proposed use will conform to existing and similar uses within this corridor. You'll hear me say that a lot this evening. And recommendation of professional staff. Again, your staff recommends approval of this request for all of the reasons I previously stated. I won't belabor the comprehensive plan issue any longer. I think we're all on the same page on that. Again, staff recommends approval of this. I will answer any questions that you may have. I believe the applicant is here. A public hearing is required on this.
First thing I'd like to do is ask for declarations, any communications between planning commissioners and the applicant. Anybody had any conversation with applicants?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. Any other communications pertaining to this item? On opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name, address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant come forward? Do you have any comments you'd like to make, sir? State your name, address.
John Chambers.
Oh, yes, please.
I'm John Chambers, owner of Paul Carter Concrete and Maverick Real Estate. Maverick Real Estate owns the ground, and Paul Carter Concrete is the company that we operate through. It's our operating business. We currently have a facility in Kansas City, Kansas. We've outgrown that facility. We need bigger space. I work with Dan Lynch, Ground to Ground, and we've discussed that, and that's why we proposed to rezone to CP2, so we can put up a 20,000 square foot building top there business side.
Any questions for the applicant? Ted, Cecil, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any individuals that would like to speak? Please go to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Kathy Reed, and I'm at 18600 152nd Street. And I just have several different questions. Do I need to repeat my name every time I ask the question?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm the actual point of the business. Is that going to be off of Briar?
That directed to me or somebody else?
Are we talking about the business or just the reason?
You're talking about access to that, to the piece of property that is being addressed. Do you have any comments
Yeah,
We
Mr.
don't-
Chair. So those sorts of items will be taken care of during the developmental process, which this will be required, to go through the plating process, the development process and the site plan process of this. It will be sent over to KDOT to determine whether or not they would be granted access off of State Avenue, or if that will need to come off of Briar. If it comes off Briar, it's very likely that there would need to be improvements made in order to properly access, but that will all be addressed at the development. So this is really just about the rezoning and whether or not the rezoning request is in line with the character of the neighborhood, the future land use map and with the direction of the city.
So at that point, us and homeowners will have no rights. It will be determined by KDOT and everybody else. See what you're saying?
The determination, if I understand Crystal correctly, whether he would have access off of 2440 would be the state's decision.
Okay, for Briar, so those are the two access points.
Briar is a city street. So that would be the city's determination.
Okay. And then, several of the questions were already answered, but it's gonna be a concrete, is it gonna be a concrete plant or?
She should address you.
My crews work.
I'm sorry, is it okay to-
And not really, you should not.
Okay, sorry.
Based on the information we have, it's a concrete plant where they'll do molding and they're not gonna make concrete. They'll do molding and make items from concrete. Is that correct?
We grind and polish concrete floors and across the United States from
Oh,
Idaho, New Mexico, across to Illinois, Texas to Canada. So our crews come in, restock their trailers and back out. So it's pretty low traffic. We just need a big enough facility to support the trucks and trailers and to house equipment, run our office staff out of the floor.
So there's no manufacturing on
Miss-
site.
Sorry, Mr.
Thank-
Chairman. I really, if she could ask her questions, and then if you all want to take a list of those questions, and if you want to ask the applicant to come back afterwards to
Okay.
ask him, then
Yeah.
you
We
may
can
do that.
So my question was, as far as if it's a manufacturing facility, the other question is, may I go up to the map?
Sure.
I was just wondering, how far the setback of the 20,000 foot building will be because of these residential homes here? And then what is gonna divide the business from these homes at the end of the cul-de-sac?
okay.
And the reason I'm asking about the manufacturing facility is because of just the things that we're gonna walk out our doors and we're gonna look at versus. I think that's right.
So, thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Commissioners have any comments, questions?
I've got. I'll make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Is there, yeah, okay. Any additional information to be presented?
So I'm just, I think it would be beneficial, at least for me, if you could just briefly talk about the distinguishing characteristics between R3 and CP2. So, what I'm hearing, I can understand and appreciate. And
Yeah, of course.
so CP2, heavy industrial.
It's it's certainly not heavy industrial. It is not heavy industrial. That would be an I2 zoning district would be heavy industrial. CP2 it's a heavier business use. CP2 might, CP1 is your very limited, a bank, for instance, maybe a neighborhood dry cleaners, that would be a CP1. Sometimes a gas station, depending upon how many bays it's going to have. Those are all CP1 type uses. Once you get into CP2, you're talking about things that have higher traffic volumes. That he is indicating that may not be the case for this specific request. It is important to remember, though, that once a property has been rezoned, That doesn't necessarily mean, that it can't be sold later on for something else. So that's why zoning is important, right? But you might see department stores could be CP2. You could see things such as a Kohl's, grocery stores could be CP2. This is not heavy industrial. This is not outdoor storage or anything of that nature. Mini warehouses, indoor storage would be CP2 uses such as that. And it is important to note that, again, this will have to go through the site plan requirements. Landscaping and screening are absolutely. This is also within your architectural design corridor. So the buildings they'll have to be designed. So those things will all be addressed at the time of the submittal for the actual development, whatever that,
Okay.
Does
So
that answer your question?
for the CP2, it does. Yes, thank you. For where it's at right now, R3, could you just brief us on what could go in there now under R3?
Apartments, duplexes, townhomes.
Multifamily living, high
Yes.
traffic,
Yeah, absolutely.
residential traffic. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
that's allowed currently.
Excuse me. Conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
You're welcome.
If there are no further comments, the public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners? Any more?
Mr. Chairman, is it, and maybe this is for staff, is it a fair assessment that tonight is the first step in a multi-step process for all the neighbors and the general public for the kind of the ultimate determining factor of what actual business goes there? Tonight is just the first step of rezoning, and the consideration of that is not what business will go there. It is just that the factual rezoning of a piece of property.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that is correct.
Then a follow-up question. So once if it were to be approved this evening per staff recommendations, and the owner of the property went forward with their plans, would those plans be then, would the neighboring property owners be notified when that agenda item was coming before the city planning and also the city council?
Under the current zoning and subdivision regulations, yes, site plans are public hearing items and they do come before you all.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just have some questions I'd like to ask the gentleman who's asking for the rezoning.
Before you, would you
He'd have to get
back up to the podium?
microphone.
Thank you.
What kind of trucks are we, or what kind of loads are we talking about? Are you talking about dock load, 45-foot high cubes? Are you talking about big pickup trucks or vans, or what kind of trucks would you be having come into your facility? And would there be like 10 a day, 5 a day? Or is there any kind of like an average you might have?
So our office staff is about 70 people right now.
Yeah.
So we all just drive standard vehicles. All my crews drive 3/4 or 1 ton trucks. Nothing bigger than that. We have enclosed and duplex cargo trailers that are indicated 16 to 28 feet long. We will have some FedEx deliveries or UPS deliveries periodically. We don't have semi trucks or tractor trailers.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have heavy traffic like that at all ever. We have a small forklift that we use there just to move pallets around within the building, but if you were to drive by our shop right now, there's not stuff piled up outside. There's not abandoned trucks or trailers. There's not piles of debris and rubble. Everything's pretty neat. Everything's clean. Trucks are clean when they come in. The appearance is very important to the face of the business. So everything is very well kept. Parking lots are well lit. Just the downward lighting in the building is all we have. We don't have big parking lot lights that light up big expanse areas like what's over, like just down the road a mile. There's a huge light out there. We wouldn't have that. We have wall packs, just light up just down with people. I mean, with all the houses around, we want a parking lot light anyways out there. So just a really neat orderly operation we run.
Okay, that answers my question. Does anybody else have any questions for him while he's up?
Yeah, I do. So thank you for that explanation. So as I read the application, it's like a 20,000 square foot building that you're anticipating building. And if I'm hearing you correctly, I don't hear anything about big trucks or anything like that that's going to create a lot of noise and things of that nature. Is it fair to say that most of your work, forklift, all these things would be inside the building or outside the building? Okay, thank you.
Um,
I'm sorry.
you have anything, Stacy?
I'm good. I'm done.
Cecil, you or Ted have anything? Any
I'm good.
questions?
Thanks, John.
Okay.
No, John, I just didn't hear his answer to the last question. That's all.
Oh, he shook his head no. Good.
Chuck
Okay.
his head no, Ted.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
good.
Thanks a lot.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
His company name that he's wanting to move this from, the area, what's the company name?
You have that, Crystal?
I think it's polished and decorative concrete, I believe is the name of the.
Polished and decorative concrete. I'll entertain a motion on this request. For rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tom Lally. For just the rezoning, I will move for approval. Do I read it all or just do I say staff recommendations?
Actually,
But-
if you want to read it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will move for approval. Excuse me. To rezone the property from R3 to CP2, a 9.50 acre lot located at the end of Briar Road. Okay, sufficient.
I'll second.
All in favor, Cecil,
Yes, sir.
Ted,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Open agenda, we have none. Reports from special committees, we have none. Planning Director's report, Crystal.
All right, Mr. Chairman. I do have one item that I need to bring to your attention. Diana has that up on the screen, but I also have a couple of things after this that I would like to discuss with you. Nothing major, scary or anything like that, just a couple of housekeeping items. Commissioners, in June of last year, you all were tasked with reviewing a subdivision, Honey Creek Farms, located near 166th and State Avenue. You all reviewed that, you reviewed the supplemental documentation, and you made a recommendation of approval on that. Staff had issued a condition that a taper lane would be installed near 166th and State. Staff had a follow-up condition that stated that the plat was subject to future finalized studies, and one of those future finalized studies included a traffic impact study that would be submitted to the Kansas Department of Transportation. Because State Avenue is obviously a KDOT roadway. They did ultimately submit that traffic study to KDOT in late 2022. In December of 2022, KDOT accepted their traffic study, including the recommendation that the taper lane did not need to be built. Because of that, because this is KDOT right of way, staff is bringing this to you just for informational purposes only, to let you know that, one, we cannot enforce this condition. We simply cannot, it's not our right of way. And so we will not be enforcing it. And then also because that next condition that essentially superseded condition number 4, they said this is subject to that finalized traffic study. This is just for informational purposes. In case houses become, are going up and you all don't see the taper lane, we didn't want you to come to us and say, why didn't you tell us? That's why there is no taper lane. KDOT is not requiring it. Excuse me, I shouldn't say no longer requiring it. They're not requiring it. And again, so therefore staff will not be enforcing that condition. Any questions or?
Yes, I have a question. I have a lot of questions. But anyway, the planning commission approved the rezoning and the rezoning and they approved the plans back in January 11th, 2022. And I was not a member of the planning commission at that time, but part of the agenda, page 343 of that agenda for that day, which the planning commission approved, was a letter from a citizen of the community, and that citizen just happened to be me. I wrote the letter because the citizens of our community had protested this rezoning. It was originally the developer was going to put in duplexes, and we felt that the single family homes would be more proper in our neighborhood. And so we met with the developer. We told him what we thought. It was a little bit heated discussion, but anyway, we basically wrote letters to the planning commission saying we did not approve of the rezoning. The developer listened to what we said, and he changed his mind and decided to he decided to put in single family homes instead of duplexes. I wrote a letter to the planning commission saying that I appreciated the effort of Mr. Blevins, the developer, and Renaissance, which is his engineering firm, and that I would not oppose this. I sent that letter for a couple of reasons. One, that we had some hydraulic issues in our neighborhood. The developer and the engineer listened to our concerns about the hydraulic issues, and they put retention ponds in their plans. We had problems with duplexes. They changed their rezoning and for single family homes and put single family homes in. And the developer did a traffic study, and voluntarily, even though he did not have to do it, he said he would put in a right turn taper off of State Avenue onto 166th Street. The 166th and State Avenue interchange is an interchange that we don't think is very safe. And the fact that the developer willingly, at his own expense, knowing he was not required to do it, he told the planning commission that he would put in that taper. That was part of what the planning commission approved. The traffic study he did said that a turn lane deceleration taper is warranted, but in KDOT terminology, warranted does not mean it has to happen. Warranted means that it would be, good. It's within the KDOT guidelines, but you don't have to do it. The developer knew that warranted word was in there, and he knew he did not have to put that turn lane in, but he did, and he included that in his traffic report, and he said he would handle that, and we would get that. The city reviewed it and said it was okay, and so everything was fine. But when he reapplied, or when he sent his new traffic study to the state of Kansas in November of last year, he basically kept exactly the same data that he had with his original traffic study. The only difference is he removed the part about that he would put in the right turn taper. Everything else was exactly the same. Did we have our engineer look at the two traffic studies to see if there were any differences between the two? The one that was with the original that the planning commission looked at on January the 11th, 2022, and the one that was submitted in November, December 2022. Were there any differences in those two traffic studies other than just eliminating the turn, the right turn taper and say it wasn't necessary anymore? It appears to me all of the data are exactly the same. He just took out a couple of lines. That does not seem kosher to me. This planning commission approved this rezoning because of with that stipulation in there that there would be a right turn taper that would be provided, paid for, designed, and provided by the developer. And basically the way that it ends up is a keystroke by the city and it's all gone. That does not seem, I would think that if the developer had, looked at this and said, conditions are a little bit different today than they were back when I went in and had this, this original plan submitted to you guys. It's not going to be as lucrative for me. If you would have come to the planning commission and said, due to these conditions, do you think we could negotiate something or eliminate that right turn taper? I'm sure we would have done it, but we didn't even have a chance to look at it. It was the city, a keystroke, and it was all gone. I don't like the way that smells. And, there's at this particular point, there's nothing I can do about it because it's already, the developer's already been informed. You're ready to go. You can go do whatever you want to do. But this planning commission didn't have, didn't have a chance to look at what he was going to do and the fact that he is not going to do what this planning commission voted for when they thought he was going to do it. I realize that what I've just told you doesn't mean anything because it's done, it's over with. It's just me listening to my own voice, but I was not, I could not, I had to say something about it. I had to get it off my chest. It just smells like bad government to me. And that's all I got to say. Thanks a lot.
Tom, you have any comments?
Sure.
Okay.
What's a little bit, what I'm not comprehending is in the future, if the planning commission and the staff and the city council goes through all the gyrations and exercises to approve something based upon known knowledge, and then almost a year later, something comes up that makes that a moot point, I'm having trouble reconciling all the work that was done prior to that. Is it an easy answer that all traffic studies have to be done far in advance? And obviously in this specific example, but are there other issues that can be popping up or projects that were approved a year ago or 3 months ago that render everything moot? And that's a concern. So I was like, I think we put some time in and we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah, absolutely. And Commissioner Owen, I appreciate your comments and your concerns.
Yes.
I certainly do. Commissioner Lally, yeah, you raise a great point. And the fact of the matter is, I can't promise you that nothing from the past is ever going to come back again. I simply can't. You will hear me say many, many, many times to you and to everyone, I don't make promises I can't keep. So I won't promise you that. What I can promise you is that going forward, you will not get development plans before you until all of the i's have been dotted and the t's have been crossed. We will have finalized traffic studies that have already been approved by either city engineers or state engineers, whoever the municipality is, the authoritative jurisdiction. We will have finalized stormwater and drainage reports before you. So that we can limit these sorts of issues, because I will tell you that staff doesn't enjoy bringing this back to you to say, hey, here's a mistake. And, we need to fix it. We certainly don't enjoy it. But the fact of the matter is, it was a mistake, and the right thing to do was to bring it before you so that you knew what the mistake was and that you knew what we were doing. I understand that we're not all necessarily happy about that. I certainly do. But we can't enforce that condition. We just simply cannot. So-
And I have one more thing to bring up too, and that is that the governing body, after it was approved by the planning commission, had a vote on it and voted it in. I'm assuming the governing body is going to be informed the same way we were. You voted for this, but you didn't get it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal, but, and I always like to see deceleration or acceleration lanes. And even though the developer has said he would pay for it, if the state does not approve it, there's nothing anybody can do because it's state property.
If I could speak again, I would have to assume that Renaissance Infrastructure Consulting, their traffic division that did the traffic study, that promised or that said that they would take care of the right turn taper, they are sophisticated enough to know. I mean, if they're sophisticated enough to present something to this city, a traffic report to this city, they have to be sophisticated enough to know what they're doing. If the city accepts it, that means that they to me, that these guys are qualified and they know what they're doing.
But again, Jim,
They would not have promised to do it if they were concerned that the state of Kansas was not going to allow them to do it. And from my understanding, KDOT, if you have an area like that particular area that the right turn taper is warranted, if you design a taper, present it to KDOT, they approve your drawings, and then they approve and you submit your material lists and all that to them, and they approve the material and approve you to do it, you can do it. And so I would have to assume that Renaissance had already contacted the state of Kansas.
I'm going to say at this point, Jim, you're assuming a lot.
Yeah.
So it was all presented to the state. Again, I strongly support deceleration and acceleration lanes. But at this point, the state has said no.
And the state,
They don't support it.
yeah, but the state said no because
I don't know
they got
that
different
the
data.
states, we've seen situations where the state has not said, and I can give you 158th Street and 24. They said for years the light wasn't necessary, and there were several accidents, and it finally got done. But the state has said no. So from my point of view, there's not much we can do. And it's
I agree
unfortunate-
with you. There's
It's
nothing we can do.
unfortunate that it got to the point where we approved it. The city approved it. Then it goes to the state late, if you will, and they say no. And city has said, staff has said, they'll make sure that doesn't happen in the future. To me, that's all we can do.
But I just feel like we need to keep developers and people honest.
And I think everybody agrees with you.
And I can't say that the developer did anything dishonest. But my reading of the traffic report is that all the data that I saw were identical. In our current book, page 81 of 116, it has the auxiliary right turn warrant data. It's word for it's word for word with what the data were in January of
Nobody's arguing,
21.
nobody's arguing your point. Point well made, but state has said, no, they won't support it. And it's their property. Anything else, Crystal?
Not on that, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we need a motion to
this
support
was
this?
just for informational purposes
info.
only.
Okay.
Yep, so no motion is needed. Thank you. I will be reaching out to all of you in the next couple of days. I would like to get a planning commissioners retreat scheduled here before long, hopefully for this spring. So we can go over parliamentary procedure. You're all very good at it. Don't get me wrong, but it's always great to have a refresher course. We'll also go over, the state statutes and such that govern planning commission and your roles and responsibilities within that. Historically, in my past, I've done that, kind of over a couple of, because it can be really heavy material. I've done it over a couple of different dates, but I will leave that all up to you. If you want to have one big day or you want to have a couple of, work session type days, then we can do that also. So just wanting to let you know that you will get that correspondence here before long, and we'll send out again some different dates and such that we think would work. And if you have any conflicts or anything like that, just don't hesitate at all to let me know. We can find a date that will work for all of us. And that's really all that I have this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments about permits?
Oh, yes, this part was new to me. Sorry. Well, we have not had any building permits yet for the month of January. As you can see, we had 5 at this time last year. However, for February, the case is a little bit different. So I will update you, in the March Planning Commission.
good.
So yeah, February, we're starting to pick up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's nothing further from commissioners. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
All in favor, Cecil,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes.